Tell us what you feel is the greatest challenge for the industry today.
You know, I come out of the installer and EPC world, and in general, I think most people here would agree to date, for the most part, the vast majority of utilities consider solar electric almost a nuisance. And so, by nature of the fact that companies like Solectria Renewables are developing smart grid features that give the utilities some control over the systems, we are able to address some of the biggest challenges, which have been the reluctance of utilities to accept this technology as a viable spoke in the wheel of energy from their perspective. I mean, I think you and I and most people here would agree that it may not be the end-all cure-all as far as an energy source for the world or our country, but it certainly, I think, is here to stay as a spoke in the wheel. And I think our biggest challenge in the last 5-6 years, and even now, is to convince the utilities that it is not only there's a viable return for them on this investment, but that it can help diversify and stabilize their energy sources and grid.
What do you find, Matt, is your biggest challenge, either to the industry or to you as an organization?
I think our biggest challenge is continuing to develop and create curriculum that stays with industry. It's not so much a challenge as it is an opportunity, and I think what really excites us in our work is to continue to develop the best curriculum that we can in all the areas that we focus on, and keep them up to date with industry best practices and what's going on with the bigger energy picture in the world. And so that's really exciting for us, and I think what keeps us motivated in our work.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Matt, for your time today. Enjoy the rest.
Things like this, if you were all aware of the Colorado Solar Thermal Roadmap that was announced by COSEIA 2 weeks ago. It's all about awareness, and the more people that actually know what solar thermal is. I don't know about you guys, but when you say solar to people, most people, they just think of PV. They don't know the difference. They don't know PV. They don't know thermal. They just think it's something that's on a roof generating electricity. So awareness is a big one. And I think there's really got to be I'll give you an example of another program we're working with. This is with a plumbers union on the East Coast, and they're looking at some major grants around retraining, and basically taking tens of thousands of plumbers, unionized plumbers, and teaching them how to install solar thermal systems. And they're talking about, it's about a 30,000 panel deal for us. But it definitely involves legislation, and that's what's going on right now. It happens to be in a state where they actually seem to have a functioning political process where both sides of the aisle are interested in doing this for job creation. But those it seems to me, are the kinds of things that will certainly help, because right now we do not have the infrastructure in the U.S. to really deliver solar thermal systems, especially high temperature solar thermal systems at a large scale.
It is power generation, so the market in the U.S., there is some market for this type of technology, concentrating solar power for power generation, particularly if we could use the storage capabilities of it. But one of the attributes of the U.S. market is really driven by the RPS, the Renewable Portfolio Standards. And when utilities go out to purchase power, they're really just trying to meet their RPS requirements. And they don't really care what time of day the power is generated. They don't care what the quality of the power is. They just care about that percentage. They're just trying to meet 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever the requirement is. And so they look for the very cheapest electricity, renewable electricity.
What are the best practices that can help make a community a solar-friendly community? What does that look like? And not just what does that look like from a solar business perspective, what does it look like from a city perspective? How is that different from a county perspective? How is it different from a rural perspective versus a larger city perspective? And try to better understand what the differences are and where the areas of common ground are. And let's define and combine that with the good national data that's out there and the regional data that's out there, so that collectively we can help to define what are the best practices that make a community a solar-friendly community, so we can make it easier for everyone to be able to better adopt these best practices. Then let's set up training programs to help provide education and support for those communities that are looking to get some extra guidance, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel and they can participate in this effort. And most importantly, let's provide recognition for those communities that are adopting these best practices, because we think that there's some great efforts going on by a wide range of local governments today and other stakeholders today that they are doing to be able to help make their communities more solar friendly. We want to provide recognition where recognition is due and make sure that those communities know that those efforts are making a difference for their citizens, but it's also providing other benefits to them. When local governments are involved in actually adopting these best practices, first of all, they're driving down their own internal costs, because if there are extra steps that are being taken that are not necessary or not adding extra value to their citizens, then maybe there are some ways that we can help streamline those processes and lower those operational costs for local governments in collaboration with local governments. You know, maybe there's a way that as we're able to help drive efficiencies throughout that process, and as we can provide recognition to those communities that are very adopting these best practices, what would happen if we could actually promote those efforts, so that when solar businesses are deciding where do they relocate their new regional headquarters or their national headquarters, all things being equal, they're probably going to want to support and be looking very closely at these solar-friendly communities, and to be able to look at what options are for relocating their efforts there. So we think that there's significant branding value for local governments and economic development value for local governments to participate in this solar-friendly communities program. Third, we know a lot of communities have sustainability goals or other goals to be able to provide a range of services to their citizens. So by making things easier for your citizens, for local governments, it allows local governments to be able to enjoy a broad range of additional goals that they may be working for. And whether that's just simply to be able to make sure that they can provide a range of services for their citizens, or whether it's actually trying to be able to have cleaner forms of energy or environmental goals or economic goals. What the exact goals are is not as important as the fact that we want to be able to provide recognition to those communities that have taken positive steps to be able to make things easier for their citizens. So we think there are a broad range of benefits that collectively we think that local governments can greatly benefit by participating, as well as utility stakeholders. We want utilities, they're an important part of the equation here, and we think that they have an important voice in this process, and we think that their input into this process on what makes a community a solar-friendly community, and any opportunities that we can find to be able to work with utilities to figure out how do we simplify processes where we can simplify processes, that benefits utilities as well. So we think that there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration.